And good Saturday morning and welcome inside the Huddle. Kenny Roto along with Billy Beebe. It's the Saturday Morning Huddle brought to you by Spectrum Orthopaedics. We'll talk with Dr. Ajay Seth from Spectrum a little bit later on, Billy. But can you believe we're through 8 weeks now, man? We got 2 weeks left of the high school football season, and we had some fantastic games last night.
Yeah, you and I discussing scores, stats, going through all of it. Haven't had a disappointing week yet, Kenny. Every single week. We're getting great storylines. The stats, the scores are always meaning something to individual teams, to individual players, to the league standings, to standings around the community. So another great set of games last week that kind of played into that.
Yeah, without question, fantastic stuff. And we're going to break down all the games that we did, radio, TV, stream last night through WHBC and Mix 94.1. We've got some great guests. We're going to talk with Phil Mauro from Malrington. Picked up his 200th career win last night, their first win of the season, a huge night for the Dukes. Scotty Garcia from GlenOak's going to join us, their head coach. Dr. Ajay Seth, as I mentioned, from Spectrum Orthopaedics. Brian Gamble, Sandy Valley, back in the win column last night. Dan DeGeorge, huge bounce-back win for Lake after losing their first game of the season. And we'll talk about our player of the week from the game that we had. And boy, did we have a doozy, man. When we did the scheduling of our season this year, we saw it was week 8 and we saw West Branch at Alliance in radio. We said, we want that one. That's our game. We want to do that game because Drew Deshields, outstanding quarterback for West Branch, and Zerbrug for Alliance. So they lived up to all the hype and then some last night as West Branch rallies late to beat Alliance in Alliance, well, at Mount Union Stadium. You know that pretty well, Karis Stadium now. 42-35, 77 points and over 900 yards of offense in that game. And it came down to the, to the wire. And give West Branch credit. You know, they led for most of the game, and then they trailed late and rallied to come back. And that's one of 3 touchdown passes there from Drew Deshields. A slant over the middle. He threw his first interception of the entire season last night. Drew Deshields did. Unbelievable. I think he's got 30 touchdown passes now and 1 interception on the year. And then this play right here's the game winner. They were without any timeouts, and it was at the 9-yard line, and it was a run-pass option for the senior quarterback, and he had the guts to call the run there to his running back, and they scored the game-winning touchdown, and they scored with 14 seconds left. So if they don't get in on this play, Billy, it's going to be tough getting that last playoff, but didn't have to worry about it because the offensive line did their job. He read the defense correctly, and they get the game-winning touchdown there, and they get the big win, and they're in first place in the EBC now. Over Alliance by 1 game. So just a great game for us last night on the Pro Football Hall of Fame Game of the Week.
Yeah, I did the score watching on that one, Kenny, and I think you can elaborate, but that was one of those games that seemed like it was 4 quarters. Like every single quarter was its own kind of game. I know you guys were battling the elements a little bit. I kept checking. I'm like, man, that was supposed to be a high-scoring game. It's kind of low to start.
Right, yeah. We had turnovers early. Billy, the quarterback struggled throwing the ball in the first quarter in the rain. I was soaking wet, so that sucked. But I toughed it out. It was Boston Mullenix on the 9-yard run to get the win. And a huge game. And our player of that game and player of the week was Drew Deshields, as this kid played on one leg last night. He got hurt in the first half, and he still put up these numbers on one leg basically last night. 283 through the air with 3 touchdowns, 62 more on the ground. Huge scrambles late to pick up first downs, 2 more touchdowns rushing, and he also threw a 2-point conversion. And this kid is going to play at the next level, and I wish him nothing but the best. And Coach Cooper called a great game last night, but Drew Deshields, we heard about him. We knew he was good, and now we know why Eastern Illinois has offered him a scholarship, and he's going to play football there.
No doubt. We knew you guys had big talent there. Real quick before we bring in Coach Mauro here, my game over at Canton McKinley, 2 streaks, Kenny, that we had our eye on, okay?
Okay.
McKinley, winners of 15 straight games against Jackson. So the Polar Bears were trying to shut that down. And then, of course, the 0-4 Bulldogs were trying to win 4 in a row to get to 4-4. They did just that, a huge game, a 40-23 win for Canton McKinley over Jackson. Look, Canton McKinley is exactly what they look like right now. They are hot. They're coming together. They're playing well. And then for Jackson, Kenny, there may be a bit of a mess there. They went to a freshman quarterback yesterday in Lucas Eckerment. That was his 2nd straight game that he's appeared in, but they gave him the whole second half. They gave him passing. They gave him running. I don't know what Jackson's going to do next week. That's our TV game, so I'm interested to see if Jackson is interested in keeping with Joe Lattarulo, the junior, or they go to Lucas Eckerment, the freshman, who did some really nice things last night. He did a fumble, which ended up getting returned for a touchdown. So J-Roar's got a tough call to make. Do you want to go with the junior who kind of runs your offense like this, or, you have upside downside with a talented freshman? Tough spot to be in, honestly, for Jackson this late in the year.
Well, think about it. They're out of the Fed race, right? Playoff picture, yes. Are you building for this year? Do you think you have a legitimate chance? How far can you go this year? Or do you want to give that freshman reps so next year when he's a sophomore, you build around him for the next 3 years? So that's a tough coaching decision that'll need to be made there by first-year head coach Jay Rohr at Jackson.
Yeah, and it is tough because Lattarulo, a junior, so you'd get him for 1 more year, and we know he's pretty well. But I don't know. Maybe you can make Eckerman a running back. Maybe you make Lattarulo. I mean, Ethan Lesko, who was their quarterback to start the year, he's at wide receiver now. So at this point, this is why I guess high school coaches get paid the big bucks. We're out here making these decisions. I mean, like you said, he's got to think about next year, and he's not even done with this year. So definitely very difficult there. And I'll just say it was funny because I didn't even have to say from the sheet that it was a freshman quarterback because Eckerment checks in quarterback number 25. And right away I was like, oh, this has got to be a younger quarterback. I was correct. But they've got a talented player there, but they just have to decide what they want to do going forward.
All right, let's bring in our first guest here on the Spectrum Orthopaedics Saturday morning huddle. And congratulations are in order for this gentleman, Phil Mauro, picking up his 200th career win last night with a 31-0 victory over Minerva. Coach, congratulations on the win for your team, first of all, and secondly, for career win number 200. And thanks for joining us this morning.
Let's see. Oh,
there we go. There he is.
Coach,
how are we doing, Coach?
All right. Try and get him fixed here, Kenny.
All right. Get him punched up, and maybe he can hear us a little bit better here if we get him locked and loaded via his phone there. But they get a win last night, 31-0 over Minerva. First win of the season for the Dukes. So nice to get that monkey off their back. And also for Coach Mauro getting his 200th career victory. Always nice to get those round numbers in there. You've been on it for a while. Let's see if we got Coach Mauro now. Coach, can you hear us? Still having issues with him, Billy?
I believe so. I don't know if his mic's on or not. We'll see.
All right. Text him, maybe get his mic off mute, and we'll try and get him in. But he's one of a number of guests we're going to have here with us today on the Saturday morning huddle. And while we try and get him locked and loaded and ready to go, let's take a look at some of the other scores from last night. And we'll tell you about Lake beating Hoover 35-15, a big win for Lake last night. Dan DeGeorge going to join us a little bit later on in the show with a player guest as well. Green beat Perry 38-35. GlenOak 48-13 over Louisville last night. And Massillon beat Canisius out of New York 42-7. They've won 7 games in a row in Tigertown. So big win for them last night. And Central Catholic 49-6 over East Liverpool. Trucker Lindesmith and the boys have won 3 in a row. They are now on a roll playing good football there in Crusader Nation. All right, want to try it again, Billy? Let's give it a go, man. It's live stuff. This happens all the time. Coach, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Good to go. There we go. Outstanding. All right. Thanks for making time for us, Coach Mauro. And Congratulations on the first win of the season for your team and also for you, career win number 200. So take us through last night and what does that all mean for the team and for you as well?
Well, it means a whole lot more for the team. Our guys have really hung in there all year long. They've done a tremendous job. We've been in a lot of games. We just haven't, finished. And for us to come out last night and not only get a win, but get a shutout, just speaks a lot about the character of our players, in particular our senior class. And, we haven't had anybody quitting or not giving great effort every week. So, it was a great win. I was real excited for our guys.
All right. What about you, though, Coach? 200 wins. That says a lot. You've been around a while, but still hitting that landmark, 200 victories. What's that mean to you?
Well, it means I've gotten to coach a lot of great players and have had a lot of great assistant coaches. In football, it's a unique animal. I mean, you have to have great staff and players that buy in. And, so I've been blessed to have both. So, it's been a fun ride.
Coach, we talked with you at the beginning of the year at our banquet, a little bit about you coming back to Stark County. Have you kind of felt that love both from the community at Malrington and in Stark County?
Oh, without a doubt. It's like being back home. I mean, like I told you guys earlier, there's no place like Stark County. And you guys are a big part of it, what WHBC does for all high school sports, but in particular football. You don't see that in every county. And, I've been in quite a few counties, obviously. So, but yeah, to be back in Stark County and the Malrington community has been awesome. They're just great people. A lot of guys on the staff, our Malrington guys, and great faculty, great administration. Dan Swisher, our new superintendent's awesome. Nick Evanich, who's now in pupil services, head basketball coach. I mean, we got great people here.
Coach, we did your game against Northwest, and you already commented on this. You've been in a lot of games, just unable to finish, right? So you've seen growth, I'm guessing, throughout the season, and those kids finally rewarded with the win, but it's not like you've been blown out each and every week, right? So do you feel you've got this thing moving in the right direction now?
Oh, I think for sure. The big thing, excuse me, first year is, trying to figure out your guys, and what are you going to be good at? What can you hang your hat on? So, I think we're getting there. And we've made really of that growth. But, yeah, without a doubt. And lost you.
All right. We may have lost you for a second there, Coach, but I'm going to ask you here.
I got you now.
Okay, great. Jackson put up a nice graphic for you today. You're a former coach from Jackson, and I got to ask, I'm going to put it up here. Hopefully you can kind of lean in and look at it. Tell me where that mustache went.
Oh, thankfully it went down the sink. Yeah, that's pretty, the old Caterpillar. But, yeah, we got rid of that quite a while ago. But, yeah, that's pretty good company I'm keeping in that picture right there with Coach Jay Rohr. And, yeah, a lot of great years at Jackson, a lot of great memories, great place. All my boys went to school and graduated from there. So, nothing but love for the Polar Bears.
I know where that mustache went. Billy Beebe's got it. That's where it went, Coach. He's sporting that mustache right there here on the Saturday morning huddle. So, hey, when you're younger, you go with the mustache. I had it. Beebe's got it. You had it, Coach. We understand that totally. Hey, who do you have with you there that we're going to get a chance to talk to from the team here? Oh, there he is. That's Cade, right? Cade McFarland, yep. You're running back and linebacker. All right, hand him the phone.
Right.
Let's talk to Cade and get his thoughts. Cade, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on the win last night. And what did it mean to you and your teammates to finally get that first W of the year?
It was super special. We've been working super hard this year. Obviously, the season hasn't exactly gone our way. So for this win, a shutout, it was a big win. We all enjoyed the moment.
Yeah, definitely, Cade. And we've talked with a couple different guys this year about playing two ways. You guys have obviously had the opportunity to get wins this season, but how fun is it for you to play two ways in high school football?
Oh, it makes the game way more exciting. getting to go on both sides. I mean, obviously it wears you out. It's tiring, but I mean, there's nothing better than getting to go score a touchdown and then get an interception on defense, making big plays. It's a lot of fun.
All right, so what do you enjoy more? You're a running back and you're a linebacker. So we always ask this of the two-way players throughout the year. Is it scoring that touchdown, toting the pigskin, or is it sacking the quarterback or getting that pick like you just mentioned?
Oh, I'm a defensive guy. I'd rather lay a big hit, get an interception versus a touchdown.
So what's the goal moving forward for the rest of this season? You've got 2 weeks left. What are you hoping to accomplish besides the W's, Cade?
Well, right now, we're just going to take it 1 week at a time. We're going to focus on Salem. We're going to have a good scheme this week. Coach is planning stuff already. We're going to watch some film, and we'll go from there.
All right, Cade, you're a senior this year, so you kind of had some time with different coaches, but year one with Coach Mauro here. What has he done for the team? What have you kind of learned from him, and what's his impact like on you guys?
Well, from last year to this year, I mean, the locker room, just like the culture is way better, way better. We went from a team to a family this year.
Wow, that says
The
a
way
lot.
Coach has just brought us together is just incredible.
Yeah, that says a lot about what he's able to do in 1 year's time. And so a family. So last night you get to the first win as players, but what did it mean for you guys to get him win number 200 for his career?
Oh, it was awesome. After the game, giving him the game ball for big 200, nothing was better than that.
Outstanding. Hey, Cade and Coach Mauro, thanks for making time for us here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Congratulations, Coach, on the team's first win, your 200th, and best of luck the rest of this season.
Thanks. We appreciate it. We appreciate you reaching out to us and giving us a little.
All right, Billy, we appreciate him stopping by with us here today and wish those guys the best of luck moving forward. 31-0 win over Minerva last night for Coach Mauro and the Dukes. All right, let's bring in our next guest, another big winner last night, the head coach for the GlenOak Fighting Golden Eagles, as JT likes to call them. It's Scott Garcia joining us here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Coach, thanks for joining us again in the huddle. We appreciate it. Congratulations on the win last night. What were the keys to an impressive 48-13 win last night over Louisville?
Hey, thanks. Thanks again for having us on here. But yeah, we played a really good, played well as a team. And, we had a great week of practice. We responded after, the disaster we had last week. And, our kids came out and they fought. We played great defense. We ran the ball well. We threw it when we had to and came out with a great team win.
Coach, I think a game like last week, a lot of people wonder, how do you go from a game like last week to a big win this week?
It's just all preparation. Really, that's what it comes down to. And, our kids, we flushed it out of our system, last Saturday morning and got back to work, and that's all you can do.
Do you
Coach,
think? Sorry,
go ahead, Billy. No, go ahead.
Could you feel that right away Saturday that loss was gone?
No, it hung around until late Monday. But after that, it was what a difference a week makes.
Yeah, a week makes a big difference. But, Coach, they're 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, right? So you've been at this now 14-plus years as a coach, as an athletic director. You never know from week to week with kids, what's going on, in their heads at school, at home, and everything like that. That's what makes it so tough as a coach sometimes, isn't it?
No doubt. Yeah, you never know, especially in today's world, there's a lot of things that go on in kids' lives and you got to be able to grind through those things.
I'm looking at some of the numbers here last night, Billy, from their game. You almost had 3 100-yard rushers, Coach. So was that the game plan going in? Because Burt with 16 for 220, Johnson 5 for 106, and then the other Burt came up 2 yards short. He had 98 on 10 yards. So was did you see that on film where you felt you could exploit their run defense?
Yeah, we actually we went in, the first half and we threw it a little bit more than we normally do, and that loosened them up. And we made a couple adjustments formation wise at halftime, and we were able to run the ball really well in the second half.
Yeah, Coach, I think a lot of the games in Stark County and around the area were struggling with rain a little bit to start. Is there anything you kind of talk about the players with when it starts coming down a little bit?
No, you just got to keep playing. You got to be smart as coaches, but the kids have to play, and there's really nothing to talk about. It is what it is.
Scott, you're number 2 back after retirement. You established things last year. You've exceeded your win total, right? So do you like the direction that you have this program going in right now?
Yeah, it didn't show up a lot in wins and losses, as we went along early in the season, but you can feel the growth. We had a little bump in the road last week, but yeah, we're definitely headed in the right direction.
Coach, like Kenny said, I mean, it's been an interesting 2 years for you guys, wins here, losses there. What is one thing that surprised you this year about your team?
It's really not a lot surprised me. I think our work ethic has been 100% better than it was a year ago. And, it's hard to keep doing that when you're losing games and losing some close ones that we did, early on. But, we kind of ground through that, and, we put ourselves in position to be, hopefully make a little run in the playoffs. And, we're just taking it a week at a time, and we're getting better. So that's all we can ask.
2 weeks left before the playoffs. Next up, as I look at my week 9 schedule over to my right here, McKinley at GlenOak. You've got the Bulldogs coming in. They're winners of 4 in a row. You're no stranger to this matchup in the Federal League. So your thoughts on your team going up against Antonio Hall's Bulldogs?
Yeah, they're going to create some problems for us. They're huge up front. They run the ball really well, take shots down the field when they have to. That offensive line is that's actually been the key to their success here in the last 4 weeks. And we're going to they're coming over to our place. It's always been a kind of a backyard neighborhood rivalry, and our kids, they all know each other. And we're going to play hard against them, guarantee it.
Coach, I'm looking at the computer rankings too. I see coming into this week, you were 13th. Did you know that? Do you peek at the computer rankings at this point in the season or no?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All these coaches that tell you they don't look at it, they're so, yeah, we take a look at that, and, we want to be able to improve that position. We creeped up a couple spots this week, and, we're not far out of the realm to help to even host a game. So
right,
these last 2 weeks are important.
Is that maybe the goal, or one of the goals, to hold out in front of your team now and say, okay, can't win the Fed. That's one of our goals. So that's pushed aside. But hey, guys, we win these last 2, especially getting computer points by upsetting McKinley, right? We could possibly host a game. Is that something you throw out at them?
No, yeah, that's huge. To be able to get a home playoff game, that'd be huge for us.
Yeah, no doubt you guys are getting late in the season, Coach. And I know you guys are, like you said, looking at rankings and trying to figure out what you want to do to kind of finish things out. But what do you communicate with the team as far as a week-by-week basis this late in the season?
We're still going to practice hard, but we got to back off a little bit. We've been lucky and we've been fortunate injury-wise. We're 100% healthy. You got bumps and bruises and all those kind of things at this point in the season, but you got to back off a little bit and kind of have that balance of, what's enough and what's not enough. And you got to have a feel for your team that way.
Coach, we appreciate you getting up with us again in the huddle on Saturday morning. Congratulations on the big win last night, and good luck next week against the Bulldogs in McKinley.
Thanks. I have one of our guys here with us.
Okay.
Oh, awesome.
The senior captain. He's a linebacker. Had a great game for us last night, stopping their option.
So tell us about last night's win. How big was that for you guys and the defense, your guys' ability to step in and shut down Louisville's option?
It was a great win last night. Our defense came together. The first series, we didn't do so well. They drove the ball on us. They scored, but we came back, we responded, and we got a great win last night. We came together, 11 hats to the ball, and one defense is one, one heartbeat. So it was great. It was a great win. Everybody played hard. Everybody did their assignments, read their keys right. It was a great win. I was real happy.
Yeah, how did you feel like you guys did in practice this week, both getting ready for the game and putting last week's game behind you?
Oh, yeah. Like Garcia said, the following Monday, we flushed it out our head, the last week game, and that Monday we were straight to it. Everybody was focused. It wasn't too much playing around in practice. Everybody, was just on top of everything, running hard to the ball. Running backs running hard, linebackers downhill tackling. Everybody. It was a great week of practice, and we hope to continue it this going into McKinley.
What's it mean to you as one of the leaders of that defense to hold a team to 13 points and maybe build off of that in your final 2 weeks and then into the playoffs?
It was really good, and we hope to build off of that and carry this and this mentality into the next week's game in the McKinley and to get that win in the next 2 weeks and going into playoffs. So we're just gonna keep our heads straight and keep grinding and working hard at practice.
2 years now with Coach Garcia. How do you think he's impacted the team over these 2 years he's been back?
Oh my gosh, he's impacted not just the team but the community again. He's a big part of this, program that we have at GlenOak. So, it was just he's done so much. He's brought back our, GlenOak. We're a physical team again. Our focus is back on track, and we hope to do great things. Well, GlenOak, this is my last year, so I hope for the team to do great things later on in the future. I believe this is going to be a good football team.
Yeah, what would it mean to you as a senior going out this year, right, to maybe get an upset win over a McKinley or get in the playoffs and get a playoff victory so you leave that as your lasting impression? What would that mean to you?
That would mean so much to me. We had McKinley last year. We didn't pull it off. It's whatever, but we try to get them this year. It's going to mean a lot to me to beat McKinley. I really want to beat these guys. I'm going to make sure my team is, on top of everything. Everybody's focused on practice so we can come up with this win.
And it seems like you guys are on the right track to do that. How much better do you think the team has gotten from week 1 to now?
I feel like us being more physical and more focused. I feel like now we're more focused than we were, week 1 and into the summer. I feel like we got it now. We're getting there. We're on the right track to, win more games in the future.
Guys, thanks for joining us. Best of luck this week against McKinley and enjoy the win. Coach, are they allowed to enjoy it for a few more hours today, or is that already in the rearview mirror?
We just finished the film and it's over.
Okay, well then good luck against McKinley, guys. How's that?
I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, thanks for joining us. That's great. Nope, it's over. What time is it? It's 10:30. That one's over. Can't enjoy it anymore. Got to focus on the Bulldogs and McKinley. I get it. Hey, man, that's the way coaches are, and the good players, they understand that, right? Yeah, it was fun last night. We read the paper or went online. We're doing this interview, but now it's McKinley week for GlenOak, and they've got them on or in their own building, and they would love nothing more than to upset McKinley and keep McKinley from getting at least a share of the Federal League title. That would be a huge win. And think of the computer points GlenOak would get, Billy, if they were able to upset McKinley as well.
Yeah, no doubt. We love getting Coach Garcia on because we know it's going to be honest. It's going to be real, Kenny.
Yep.
They're watching those rankings. They're watching the points. They need to. You almost feel like they need to. If that extra pep in their step is needed, if that extra, they really need to push towards the end of a game maybe. That was great, and it was great to talk with one of the players about the impact Coach Garcia's had and their mindset as a program that's kind of tried to bounce back a little bit these past 2 years.
Yeah, so a good win for them. And last night was a lot about teams bouncing back. What would Lake do after their first loss? They bounced back, got a victory. What would GlenOak do after he said a bad loss last? They bounced back and got a victory. Fairless, we'll get to them a little later. They lost 2 in a row, right? And they bounced back with a big win after losing 2 games by a total of 3 points. So it was a bounce back week for a lot of teams last night. We'll talk more about those coming up here in a little bit. But right now here on the Spectrum Orthopaedics Saturday Morning Huddle, it's time to bring in Dr. Ajay Seth, orthopedic surgeon at Spectrum. And there he is on a beautiful Saturday morning out on the golf course in his golf cart. And we've got him, I think, at the turn maybe between 9 and 10 to join us once again. Doc, thanks for getting up with us and making time for us. How's your Saturday morning going so far on the golf course?
Hey, how are you? Are you guys able to catch me? Can you hear me? Or do you
Yes, we got you. No, we're good.
All right, give me a minute here. Sorry.
That's all right. Hey Billy,
right,
we got Doc in between holes, so he's trying to get closer to the Wi-Fi signal so we can get him locked and loaded and be able to talk to. Because I want to talk to Doc about injuries at this point in the season and playing through them as opposed to when to shut them down. Because last night Drew Deshields told us, look, he hurt his knee in week 2. He tweaked it again last night for West Branch, the quarterback, and he wasn't coming out of that game last night. Right. And he played through it and was effective. But I guess, and we'll talk to Doc about this, if you can't hurt it anymore, I guess if you can tolerate the pain, right, Billy? That's when you hear guys saying, hey, I can play through it because I can tolerate the pain and I know I'm not going to hurt myself anymore. So that's what we want to get into with Dr. Ajay Seth here as soon as he gets close to the clubhouse there for the Wi-Fi where we had him last week to be able to talk to him. Let's try him now, Billy, with the audio and see if he can hear us. Doc, can you hear us?
I think he looks like he's muted here.
He might be muted.
Doc, you're muted if you're able to unmute yourself here.
All right.
There we go. All right. We're good to go now on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Doc, I want to get into this real quick with you about injuries at this point in the season and playing through them versus shutting it down. What advice do you give, athletes when they come to you and it's a knee injury? Let's be specific. We'll go there. And there's that dilemma about should I continue to play or should I shut it down?
Morning. I'm glad that you guys, I hope you guys had a good week. So it's interesting because it's now going into week 9. So in my practice, one of the things I take into account is what year are you? Interestingly, that I kind of treat a little bit different between freshman, sophomore, maybe juniors versus if you're a senior. If you're a senior, you want to finish out your season. I mean, most of these kids aren't going to play D1, D2. I mean, most of them aren't going to play in college. So a lot of them really want to finish out the season. So there's really 3 main injuries that you can get playing for your knee. The 3 major ones. One is the ACL tear, which is probably the most devastating. Then you have the meniscal tear. And then you have the medial or lateral collateral ligament tear. So we'll start with the basics. So whenever you hear about ligaments, that's what connects bone to bone. And if you look at these injuries, the femur, which is the thigh bone, and the shin bone are connected on the inside and the outside by the ligaments. And the problem is if you tear that ligament, you get the instability. So, according to the books, you have to wait, 4 weeks or so to get them to play, to be stable. But if it comes to your senior year, week 9, a lot of times we'll brace them. And if they're able to play, depending on their position, we will let them, go back to playing. But ideally, some injuries like that take a good 4 weeks to get stable. Then you have the meniscal tear. So the meniscus is, think of it like the joint cushion between your thigh bone and your shin bone. So you hear about the meniscus, and interestingly, back in the 90s, even 80s, if you tore your meniscus, they would take the whole thing out. And that's how they treated it. Well, the problem is they realized that that's what causes arthritis because your meniscus is gone. So when I was in residency, let's go late 90s, for a meniscal tear, we used to just take you to surgery and you would clean it out. You shave it. And you would see a lot of Ohio State players when we were there. We would do a meniscal surgery on Monday, and then Saturday you're playing. The most famous one was Maurice Claret. If you remember, we did his surgery, and then in post-op recovery back there, he's already doing leg lifts. And he came back and played that following Saturday. So back then, you could you go arthroscopically, you take a little shaver, and you're just kind of smoothing it out. And what I tell patients is like, you're taking a weed whacker, and you're going through weeds. So it gets frayed, you take a weed whacker, and you shave it down. Well, about 10 years ago, even a little bit longer, they came out with these great systems to repair the meniscus, okay? When you go in arthroscopically, you can fix that meniscus. Now, that is your best thing long-term. So, it's one of those things where you're not playing football the rest of your life. You got to treat it thinking that way. So as orthopedic surgeons, you have to look at their long-term, even though a lot of times the kids don't. So
Right.
what you do is you repair it. Downside is you really can't come back and play if you repair it, okay? If you clean it out, you can, but what people don't realize a lot of times is you're going to have stitches. The last thing you want is to get an infection because, you're rubbing, you're doing whatever, you're sweating on it. So that comes into account. The third thing is the ACL injury. That one, you really should not. You can't really play through it. There have been a couple people who've tried to play through it, and there is no brace on the market that will stabilize your knee if you have an ACL tear. So an ACL tear, you got to shut it down because what you're doing is that's what stabilizes the thigh bone and the shin bone so that you're not, if you go downstairs, walking downstairs, your shin bone isn't unstable. But if you don't have an ACL, you're going to basically constantly be hitting that meniscus or the joint springs. So you really can't play. And you see, I know at Ohio State, we had those braces on the linemen. The studies have shown those braces don't prevent an ACL injury. They're used for the ligament injury on the inside outside that we talked about. So, as an orthopedic surgeon, it's tough to tell a senior that, you're done for the season. Now, with a meniscus tear, you can actually play with that, okay? We've had players play with that a lot, except when you get what's called a bucket handle tear or when the joint, the cartilage flips into the joint.
I'm familiar with that, Doc, in my shoulder, right?
Yeah, exact same thing. When it flips into the joint is when you lose motion and it becomes painful. So as an orthopedic surgeon, when I would be on the field, part of your job as a doctor is to scan the field and catch the players' injuries. And that's where you can really catch them. So if somebody's not bending their knee completely, it's usually a problem where that meniscus tears and flips into the joint. So, there's a lot on shutting it down come week 9. It's easier in week 1 or 2 because you can bring them back.
Right.
Week 9, 10, now you're starting to talk about playoffs. So you start taking them out week 9, 10, it's hard to bring them back. There was a Maslin wide receiver about 4 years ago I took care of, broke his hand. We allowed him to play. He was going to play D1, but it was tough because we put a little brace on his hands. Well, you can't catch it really well with a brace on your hands. And so a lot of times, yes, you can play, but you're not going to be 100%, no matter what anybody thinks. And the other interesting part that I think comes into play is the mental aspect. So whenever you're playing and you have an injury, your brain thinks about that injury. And there's what's called I think, an autoprotective measure. So when you're out there, your brain is thinking about that injury. if you don't, when they get healed, I make the kids play with a brace or whatever for most of the season, because when they don't have the brace on, the brain kind of worries about re-injuring them. The minute you put a brace on it, they do great. And it's, when I put kids in casts, they're running all over the place, hitting each other with it. The minute you take them out of the cast, no lie, they're all like this. They come back from the x-ray. I'm like, a minute ago, you were hitting your brother and sister with that cast. And now you won't. And so there's so much that comes into play. And I think if you're an orthopedic surgeon taking care of a team, you have to look at the whole picture. There's textbook answers. You have this injury. No, you don't play. I think if you want to be a good orthopedic surgeon taking care of a team, it's the coaches working together to come up with a game plan. And as an orthopedic surgeon, you have to look at, like I said, what year are they? What are they doing next year? All of those kind of things come into play.
Coach, do you take into consideration whether or not the kid can hurt himself more at a dangerous level? Is that something you take into consideration as well when you're dealing with a kid, regardless of what year he is?
Yeah, you always worry about that. And I think that's why. So let's say I have a freshman, sophomore. I'm not going to really let them play, because I tell them that you have 2 more years to play. Don't risk injuring it worse, meaning don't go out with a ligament injury and then all of a sudden you turn it into an ACL injury. Now that's devastation. So, you guys may not know this, but everybody who plays football in Stark County is going to the NFL. I don't know if you guys know that. Everybody's going to the NFL. Okay. So I only take care of NFL future athletes, I guess. So you have to kind of remind everybody that, listen, they're not going to the NFL. That let's look at, playing time. And I tell a lot of the families that I want you to heal, so when you get to college, you can play rec ball, you can play basketball, you can play flag football when you get there. That's what's important to me for the rest of your life, to be able to play these sports. But you suffer a pretty big injury, it can take that out of play. And so that's where I kind of look at, can they play or not?
Yeah, Doc, and I think one thing a lot of people are wondering right now, I know we don't want to keep bringing up the Tua situation, but they talked about how many people communicate with Tua, what the communication process is. When somebody gets injured, an injury of any kind, how does that all work from the time they go off the field to the time that they say want to play the next Friday?
Yeah, so I'll first of all start with this. You have a medical staff that, in order to be a medical staff of say an NFL team, it's who pays the most money to sponsor the team, regardless of what everybody thinks. You necessarily aren't getting the top of the top. So that's where you notice these high-level athletes go to James Andrews in Atlanta. They're going to these bigger places. Why? Because your team may not be the best. A friend of mine played at Minnesota for the Vikings, injured his arm. He calls me, tells me what they're doing to treat it. And I'm like, absolutely not. You need to come back to Ohio State and get it fixed, which was the right answer. Yeah, he got it fixed. So I think, and that Tua is the biggest prime example. I'll tell you right, I have no idea who was monitoring this. So it comes down to a whole team of people it's supposed to be. But it's different when you're on the sidelines and you have to make that instant decision. And, when somebody's wobbling like that or something, you hope that the people are smart enough to say, we need to get them off the field. And in my opinion, with the amount of, let's say for Tua, the CTE that you hear about and all those kind of things, to me, I was like, what are you thinking? Like, and obviously they fired the guy.
Right.
And I just heard, when I was just on the course, and one of the guys said that anybody who shows abnormal body movement has to sit out of the game now. To me, that's kind of a ridiculous thing. That should have already been, you should already know that. Like, how many people, here's what I think is interesting. I would say 99% of the people who saw Tua stumbling like that had said, oh, he shouldn't be playing that game.
Yep.
I mean, that's what but you have a doctor who's like, oh no, we can clear him. So if everybody on home is like, what do they say? What is he doing back in the game? It shows it's pretty obvious he shouldn't have played. So the reason a lot of these guys go get these second opinions is, yes, you have the medical staff on the sidelines. Yes, they're there, but they're not always the best of the best. And the hard part is those are the guys who are making those quick decisions. And as a doctor, you have to have a good relationship with the coach, especially high school. I would always have this relationship with the coach where, Coach Garcia and Baum would be whatever I said went. There was no argument. It's like, you say they can't play, they're not playing. It wasn't one of those, well, do you think it was, I shut them down, they shut down. Now, NFL, we don't know what happened on the sidelines. Did they say we need him to come back in? But the other thing you have to realize is on the sidelines, I will say this, a lot of times the coaches don't see him wobbling like that. So they don't know. But your job as the team physician, somebody's in the booth, somebody's on the field, you have to tell them and make that decision.
Doc, we got about 2 minutes left here before we bring in Coach Gamble from Sandy Valley. And we had a game last night. The quarterback played. He was obviously limping. Told me he took a bunch of ibuprofens. He's going to be sore. Maybe can't walk this morning, but he wasn't coming out of the game. Obviously got some, advice that he can play through this. It's a pain tolerance thing. Okay. What can you do to treat a knee injury where you're going to play on it the rest of the season until maybe you have off-season surgery? What is there that can be done to get a kid through the season?
Yeah. So my biggest thing is that you start treatment immediately. So when I did it was, first of all, I'm shutting you down during practice. At week 9, you shouldn't need to be running through practice. You should know the plays. You should know everything. So you're not playing. And instead of playing, you're rehabbing it. So I overprotect them that week. I would put them on crutches. Not that they need to be on crutches, but just so they take weight off it. You get the swelling down, okay? And then you have them bite. You can. The interesting thing is the number one exercise, and I would take kids over to Walsh, where they have a treadmill that runs underwater. So I would rehab the guys in there because there's no gravity. So you can rehab these injuries. So I would get them rehabbing it, swelling gets down, and then let them go Friday night. And if they could go, great. But a lot of the times, sooner or later, if you're playing at 70%, you're not helping your team as much as you want to.
Yeah, this kid gutted it out, man, and had a heck of a performance. And we noticed it because our analyst is Mark Miller, who played in the NFL for the Browns, right? And Mark told us at halftime, they better not let him sit down at halftime. He better be walking and keeping movement, right, Doc?
Yeah, that's what we talked about. I remember the first week. If you really want to do it, especially when it's cold, you don't let him sit in that locker room. Like I said back in week 1, you would never, in the middle of practice in August, if a player says after 45 minutes, Coach, I want to take a 15-minute break, that's not happening. So if you're able to let them run in the middle of August for practice for 2 hours, they don't need to be sitting at halftime. That's where you get the injury. And I'll give you an example. There was a quarterback that I took care of, tore the ligament in his thumb, was a phenomenal Stark County athlete. He tried to play through it. I knew he needed surgery. We would tape it up every week, but there was an absolute deficit of what he was doing. And you end up pulling yourself out because you can't do it. You're not going to be as effective. So I know the kids want to play through it, but there comes a point where as a coach, you need to know, is your backup at 100% better than your star at 70%?
Great stuff as always, Doc. We appreciate you enlightening us and all of our listeners, coaches, and players out there on the Saturday morning huddle. We appreciate the time. Get back out on the course and hit them straight, all right?
Absolutely. It's only 34 when we started, so it wasn't too bad. And there's only 8. 7 of my other friends. Nobody's really golfing. I don't understand it.
Just you. Great stuff, Doc. See ya. There he is, Dr. Ajay Seth from Spectrum Orthopaedics on the Saturday morning huddle, brought to you by Spectrum Orthopaedics. And that's the thing, Billy. if you know you can't injure it anymore and you can deal with the pain, right, and you rehab it during the week, and great advice by him, put them on crutches. They may not need to be on crutches, but you want them to immobilize it as much as possible until they absolutely have to get back out on the field and start doing some athletic activity. But once you do get out on the field, then you need to keep it loose, and that's what we were seeing last night in our game.
Yeah, I remember, and you probably remember this too, Kenny. J.C. Treader for the Browns never practiced. He never, every week, we're talking about 17 weeks, 16 weeks, did not practice. Your center, you know the plays. You're an 8-year veteran, whatever. He just started telling him, I don't need to put my bum ankle to more use to run plays I already know. For unfortunately an 0-16 team at one point, but besides the point.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's bring in our next guest, or I should say guests, here on the Saturday Morning Huddle from Sandy Valley. The Cardinals, a big winner last night, 29-26 over Claymont. And we have Coach Gamble with us right now and running back Chad Davis from the Cardinals. Thanks for getting up with us this morning, guys. Congratulations, Coach. I'll start with you on the win last night. A tough, hard-fought win and a much-needed win, I'm guessing, from your standpoint, right?
Absolutely. We went through some, growing pains throughout with the teams that we've gone against, and since, our last win, it's been a while. It felt like, some when you go through a spurt like that, it was, just times for us for growth, each and every week, and, just staying positive with the guys. And, for us to fight back the way we fought back last night, it's just a testament to our team and our coaches. That's for sure.
Coach, the goal, obviously, of football is play well all 4 quarters, dominate all 4 quarters, but really it was the 4th quarter that brought you guys home, winning it 15-0. How big was that, and what's the communication like throughout the game?
Well, I tell you what, we went down 19-0 late in the second quarter. We were down 19-0, and you're looking around, and we're trying to find these leaderships and these guys that take the reins of the team. You know what I mean? In times like this, and we saw some growth, from our juniors and some of our guys that, when you have one senior that plays, when you have 21 other guys that are out there, and just underclassmen everywhere. And but when you see that growth go on and you see that fight go on, that is something that you talk about pass under pressure. You talk about just things that happen throughout dealing with adversity. I think we saw that, and we saw that growth. We saw that growth last night, that's for sure, with our battle back, able to score right before half and then get the ball back, change the momentum just a little bit. And our halftime, just trying to maintain positivity, so trying to maintain our growth and our schemes within. I thought we did a really good job of maintaining our composure, of coming out. That's the growth that we're looking for. Especially it's easy when you have 2 wins and you're down 19-0 in the cold, away, all that stuff, all the underclassmen, check all those boxes. You know how that is. And It's easy to pack that in, and these guys didn't, and these guys fought back. And that's the part that's the part that we wanted to see, and we saw that last night.
Well, let's talk to one of the guys who helped you outscore the opponents 29-7 after falling down 19-0. Your running back, Chad Davis, joining us as well here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Chad, you heard what Coach just said there, looking for that leadership. You're down 19-0. From a player standpoint, what were you guys talking about on the sidelines? And then how were you guys able to dominate the rest of the game from that point forward?
We just really had to lock in, and we didn't really want to go down like that without a fight. And it really just started with our O-line getting big holes, and I was able to pick up big yards, and then we just kept doing that, and it worked out really well.
Chad, when you guys are kind of coming back like that, did you feel like the game slows down?
I felt like we picked up our pace, and we just kept going with our momentum, didn't keep our head down, and we just kept pushing.
Coach, can you feel the momentum switch there? Can you see it and feel it also on the sidelines when it's happening?
It was honestly and I talk about a growth standpoint. I mean, it was a roller coaster because we took the lead, and then they score with 2 minutes left to go in the game to take the lead. Then we have to go down the field again to score with 2 timeouts, and we were able to do that, and to score at the very end. Those things, when we talk about roller coasters of emotions, containing our composure, keeping our, going all gas, no brakes, so to speak, and just going, and just keep chopping wood. Those things, all happened during those times, and that just the growth and just what you want to see as a coach. You want to see, okay, things are going good. Well, it's easy when it's easy. Things went bad again. So what are you going to do? Oh, we fought back again. So, those things that you check all those boxes, we really like, and what we saw last night.
Yeah, definitely. Chad, you guys throughout the game, you talked about the tempo is an up push. It has to change. Obviously, you kind of have that adrenaline going, but what did you see on your O-line?
They were really locked in and stuff, and they were just like getting on each other, making sure what they knew what they were going to go do. And they were just locked in and focused.
Coach, for you, it's been a heck of a season. We had our banquet. Unfortunately, you were under the weather, let's say, and unable to make that. You didn't have your starting quarterback at the start of the year. You're playing a lot of young guys this year. What's this year been like for you?
Aging in dog years, so to speak, would be a good term for me. But I tell you what, we knew going into this season what it was going to be like, but I think, to see as a coach, it's great when you have all these guys back and, you're rolling, because we've been on that end too, but to see these guys and see their growth, throughout the year and knowing in the back of your mind, guess what? All these guys are back, man. You know what I mean? For another year. It's a do-over. Not too many juniors get to be seniors twice. You know what I mean? And that's a big deal. And to see these guys, grow and see this growth, it's great to see as a coach. Again, there may be some more gray hairs going, but at the same time, our growth and then our coaches keep coaching these guys up and our players keep responding and maintaining and retaining this information, I think is very important for us, for our growth and for our overall for next year, for 2023.
Coach, I know you like to give credit to the whole team and different areas, but, we offered you the chance. Bring whoever you want on today. Why was Chad Davis selected?
There could have been a lot of guys selected. I thought, it's nice to have, as I'm reading this ticker going across about, him having 166 yards and 3 touchdowns and all that. But the big things with Chad that changed the game in this particular game was that not only did he, had the yardage, but he also blocked 2 extra points. And that was not making it 19, not 21. He also scored, on his second touchdown, he got the 2-point conversion too. So if you take that away or add that, then it's a 4-point swing. You know what I'm saying? So think the little things like that he did to change the game, I think is a big deal.
All right, for both of you guys, Chad, we'll start with you, and then Coach, you can answer this same question as well. I'm looking at your schedule here: home games with Garaway, Tusky Valley. Chad, what's it going to take for you guys to finish this season strong and maybe get back to 500? And who knows? We'll take a look at the playoff standings at that point. What's going to be the key there?
We just really got to be focused and not back down at all. Garaway, they got a big name, but we just don't have to worry about that at all and play to our potential and rise up to the occasion.
Coach, what about you?
For us, it's just stacking chips each day. You know what I mean? Just keep getting better. Keep gaining momentum. Keep doing what we've been doing all year, man. Just grow as fast as we can at a rapid pace. We do those things, good things are going to happen. We're going to focus on us, continue to get better, and, we'll see where the chips fall. But, I think for us, we're just going to stack days of positivity. If we can do that, we're going to be just fine.
Guys, thanks for making time for us here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Congratulations on the win last night. Good luck in the final 2 weeks and maybe beyond.
Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good win for Sandy Valley last night. And Coach Gamble, like you said, it's been a roller coaster of a year all the way back to when we held our coach's banquet, right? And his dad had to pinch hit for him and, tell us about the team and everything. So, and like he said, the light at the end of the tunnel for him. Yeah, still this year, right? You want to win as many as you can, but he knows these kids are gaining experience for when they come back as seniors, juniors, and maybe even sophomores next year, Billy.
No doubt. And that's a team that we've seen have a lot of success in the past and play very well in the past, Kenny. Their start, not quite what we expected. I'm sure it's not what they expected and hoped for, but that's why it's a week-by-week season. You know, this week matters by itself. You want to address this week, win this week, and it seemed like Sandy Valley didn't get caught up in their record. Like you said, their record and the age and this and that. They were down 19-0. They wanted to win. They made it happen.
All right, let's bring in our next coach and player here on the Saturday Morning Huddle, brought to you by Spectrum Orthopaedics. Outstanding 10th-year head coach at Lake, Dan DeGeorge, and he's got Styles Dietz, one of his offensive linemen, captain with him today. And we appreciate you guys joining us. Coach, I'll start with you. I think a lot of us were wondering, all right, Lake lost their first game. How are they going to respond? It was a bounce-back week for a number of teams, and how would they bounce back? How would you assess the way your team bounced back last night in the victory?
I think we have a microphone issue with you, Coach.
Yeah, just unmute that thing, and I think we'll be good to go if you can on there. Or maybe the youngster can help you. They know technology better than us old folks on a regular basis. I always ask my son for help whenever I have issues like that, Billy, or I'll go to you or whoever the younger person is in dealing with technology these days. But like I said earlier, it was a big week for a lot of schools because, this was their first loss, and it was a Federal League loss. And McKinley, handed it to him last week. And how would Lake bounce back? How would Fairless bounce back? And some of these other teams that had games, GlenOak, how they would bounce back. And so from that standpoint, a lot of teams answered the call. A lot of teams bounced back this week in Stark County and picked up victories. And those are, the building blocks. Those are things that you stack and you remember as coaches, and hopefully players remember and get a feel for as players. And so when something bad happens during a season next year, when you are a senior, you can remember back to, hey, remember last year when we got beat and then we were able to, to bounce back and get the victory. Those are things that you hope you put in the memory bank and you're able to build off of. And now let's bring in Coach once again, Dan DeGeorge from Lake. Coach, the bounce back effort last night. Give me your thoughts on how that went, and were you expecting your team to respond that way?
Sure. Yeah, appreciate you guys having us. Our kids did a great job last week of just responding to some adversity. McKinley put it to us a week ago. We did not play well, so we challenged the kids. What are we going to do now? And they had a great week of practice, like I mentioned, and played well last night. Give Hoover credit. Hoover's a very good football team, but our kids just kept fighting, and they played 4 quarters. So just really proud of our efforts, particularly coming off a loss last week to McKinley.
Coach, you guys went on the road. I mean, tough enough coming after your first loss, but Hoover was unbeaten in their stadium. How did you guys feel having to travel for a bounce-back game?
Yeah, I think our kids were just excited to play again. As I mentioned, we didn't play up to par versus McKinley. So last week was a long week because we wanted to fix some things, but our kids wanted to get back at it and prove to a lot of people that they can play better than they did last week. And they did that. Hoover's a tough place to play. Very good coaching staff. Their kids fight hard. But I think we ended up wearing them down a little bit in the trenches. Our offense and defensive line did a great job last night, and that's where you need to win Friday night games in the Fair League.
And that's why you have with you today offensive lineman Styles Dietz, 6'4", 285 senior captain. And Styles, congratulations on the win. What did it mean to you as a captain, the way your team responded last night? And did you have to get them extra fired up or do anything during practice during the week to make sure they played the way they did last night?
We definitely had to clean up practice this week. McKinley week, the practice was a little slow, and losing to them was definitely a big slap in the face. So beating Hoover was a huge confidence booster for us, and it's definitely a huge step moving forward.
Yeah, Styles. We talked with some coaches about it, some players. Is it true the O-line likes the weather dropping? They like it colder. Is that true?
You know, the rest of the guys do. I like it a little bit warmer because my body doesn't move as well in the cold, but I don't mind. I'm just trying to play.
Coach, how did his body move last night for you?
He did a great job last night. All 5 of our guys up front offensively had their best overall night together. We got a lot of movement, the line of scrimmage, and as I mentioned before, our guys just kept going, and I think we eventually were able to wear Hoover's defensive front out a little bit and give us some room to run the ball. So real pleased with our offensive line play last night.
Coach, you noted when we were talking about Styles that he's a 3-year starter. How big a deal is that to have such experience heading into his senior year?
Oh, sure. We have a handful of guys that are in that situation, but particularly when you have someone that's been up front, been in the trenches for 3 years, that's huge. The adjustments you have to make in the game, just the offensive line mentality that you have to be successful. Both Styles and Jack McAvenue are 3-year starters for us, and we're lucky to have those guys. And not only very good players, but the leadership they bring to the other guys up front is enormous.
All right, Billy asked you, Styles, about the weather dropping for offensive linemen. Is it also true that offensive linemen enjoy run blocking and the results more than pass blocking in the results?
I definitely like running the ball more, for sure.
What is it about that? Why is it such a rush for offensive linemen with guys running the ball?
You know, definitely pass blocking and run blocking are obviously very different. I like hitting rather than taking in the hit, but it's definitely a lot more fun when the offensive line as a group can work together and making big plays together. It feels great.
All right, Coach and Styles, we got a couple plays we want to show you. Hopefully they come across okay on the phone. This first one, we'll start with Coach. You got Will Butler's first touchdown of the night. Take us through, if you can see it okay, what's happening on this play?
So we're in the red zone, so we need to run the ball. We're just running a little guard fullback counter to the wide side of the field. So we need to get a great down block by our front side of our line, which we do. Then our guard and fullback are pulling us through, and Will really goes in untouched, which is what you want. So they did a nice job there.
And
How much
Styles,
fun? Oh, go ahead.
You mentioned the run blocking on a play like that. I mean, how big of it is a deal of it, even when you're so close that you got to kind of push through?
Oh, I think most people know you're running the football. So everyone in the stadium knew we were running the football with either Will or Matthew, and still being able to find your way in and punch in the touchdown is important.
All right, Billy, you got another play you want to queue up for them show them how well they did on a touchdown run here?
And as you mentioned, Matt Solberger, here's a run kind of towards the end of the game. The rain's coming down. It's late. What happens on an outside run like this again in the red zone?
Yeah, actually designed to be an inside play. Hoover was really packing the box. So the design of the play was to get Matt inside the kick out. Hoover had a couple extra guys inside the box, so we were able to make a good cut by Matt, and he bounced it outside, and then he made one guy miss, and our receivers downfield blocking there. So that was just a good job by everybody doing their job and then adjusting to what Hoover gave us in the box.
And then
Styles,
one more here, Coach. You get to the red zone again. You've had a lot of success throwing the ball or running the ball. Then you switch up with this pass to Acl Jarvis.
Hard to see. Yeah, sorry. I couldn't see that. Apologies.
No, that's all right. The pass to the far corner of the end zone there on that, the play call there, the design obviously worked.
Yeah, no, it was a good play. That play, unfortunately, ended up getting called back for a holding call. But when you run the ball successfully, you obviously set up the play action game, and our receivers did a good job. Acl was going to throw to Baker in the flats, but Hoover's corner jumped that route, so we went over top into the end zone, which is exactly what he's taught to do. So good play for us, but like I said, unfortunately, was called back.
Coach, when you have a running back like Matt, right, and you said it was supposed to go to the inside, he sees it's not there. He recognizes their defense, right, and bounces it outside. The experience that you have with him and others on this team this year, how valuable is that to what you've been able to do 7-1 so far?
Sure. Yeah. Anytime you have that Friday night experience, the last couple of years we've been young and we've played a lot of guys, sophomores like Styles and Jack and Matthew, and they really have learned and become much better football players over the past 2 years. So, that game experience, there's nothing more valuable than that. And, kids being coachable and learning from their own mistakes over the years and not making those same mistakes over is huge. And we're seeing that come to fruition with a lot of our seniors this year.
Hey, Billy, run that other one back. Styles, did you see how he faked him out of his jockstrap on this? No, the other one. This is the quarterback keeper. Give me the one by Solberger. Watch this on the corner here. That somebody loses some uniform here on this cutback by Matt. Well, check this out. Right about there. Yeah. Whoops. See, that's pretty sweet right there, isn't it? That's a nice move. That's like a video game move, isn't that? That's pretty. What did he end up with rushing last night, Coach? He had to have over 100 yards last night. I know you guys as a team were over 200. I'm guessing Matt was either close to 100 or over 100, right?
I think Matt was about 130, and Will was like 90 yards rushing. So we did a nice job there as well, and threw for about 100 yards. So we'll take that.
Coach Cale returned this week, Cale Jarvis, and got more time at quarterback, and you guys kind of had to weather through the one quarterback situation last week. Talk us through, I guess, the experience last week with one quarterback and then the return of Cale this week.
Sure. Yeah. Most people say, and I guess I used to think this too, that if you're playing two quarterbacks, it means you don't have one. That has been not the case for us this year. And we learned that early this summer. Both Will and Cale do some really good things for us at quarterback. It's been very productive for us to be able to play both during the course of the game. So last week versus McKinley, Cale was a sort of game time decision and he couldn't go. So that put a lot more pressure on Will. Will's also playing tons of defense for us, and he's a really good football player on that side as well. So we lost a little bit of our offense, obviously not having Cale last night with him back. We're able to put him in some, get Will a rest. Cale does a really good job with the RPOs and some of the passes we do. And then Will has a nice arm throwing the deep ball and running the ball. So it gives us the ability to do both, and having them both healthy is important moving forward.
Yeah, and Styles, what is the difference blocking wise when those two quarterbacks change?
Me personally, I don't really care who's in. I'm just trying to block and, contribute as much as I can.
Coach, a lot to play for still. Okay, yeah, it's not going to be an undefeated season, but you still have a chance to win the Federal League, right? Be co-champs in the Federal League and playoff positioning. How do you get that done? How do you win your next two Federal League games, and give yourself a chance to make a nice run in the playoffs?
First, we're excited about the opportunity we're in. The best approach and the approach we're going to take is to go 1-0 this week, and that's find a way to beat Perry, which is going to be very difficult. Obviously, always tough stopping the wing tee. If we keep those goals, a week-to-week goal, and some of those other things you were talking about can happen. Very excited for the kids in the community that we're even in the position to have a chance at the Federal League title and maybe host a few playoff games, which would be ideal. But the best thing for us to do is concentrate on the day-to-day and go 1-0 this week. And it's always tough going to Perry to play, so we're going to have our hands full.
Styles, you guys famously have the food trucks at the games. Do you guys ever get to partake in those before or after?
I wish, but by the time we get out of the locker room, they're long gone.
Coach, you're probably happy, right, that they're not filling up on some of that, because I'm an old guy and I like my greasy French fries or whatever else like that too. You want them eating vegetables and fish and all that good stuff, right, for the protein?
Well, sure. We tell them to be smart and put the right things in their body, but they also go to wing night, during the week is a offensive group and stuff. So believe me, they're eating a lot of good food.
Guys, we appreciate you getting up with us here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Congratulations on a big bounce-back win. Good luck the next 2 weeks, and we have a feeling we'll be seeing you down the road too, Coach, all right?
Appreciate it. Thanks for what you guys do as well.
Appreciate that. Styles Dietz, offensive lineman, Dan DeGeorge, head coach there for Lake, and a good win for them last night, Billy. A much-needed win. A lot of us were wondering, all right, would this snowball, right? Would it continue, or could they go on the road, tough environment, and get the victory? And they did in convincing fashion last night.
Yeah, and I know I got to ask Coach a little bit about the 2-quarterback system, Kenny, but I mean, it looked like from the way they played, and I was texting with Derek Philo, who's on the sideline for our TV crew. He said he felt Will Butler would have been all right on his own in that one. He said Will Butler kind of bounced back after a tough solo game. Will Butler played well, and we can watch it.
It's not who they are, right? They are a 2-quarterback team, Billy. If we haven't learned that, and Derek, that's fine, but they're a 2-quarterback team this year.
Yeah.
And so it just gives them a different approach, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. And I would say, I mean, Stiles said, either way, they're blocking for who's back there, but I think it would probably change. You'd think, you're running different plays. Guys are changing up how they move back there. I think Will, probably didn't stay, from what I've watched a couple of the games, he didn't stay in the pocket much. It's a give and go situation. It's an option situation. Kale's going to drop back and either roll out or stay in that pocket and wait for the throw. And again, we watched it a couple times, but I'm sure with a play like this, they're happy to have Cale Jarvis back because that is a dime to the corner of the end zone.
Too bad it didn't count, though. But yeah, it's a nice throw,
Derek
right? I mean, it looks good.
Yeah, Derek failed to mention that in
holding number 72. Got to bring that one back. So holding on Philo. We'll call the penalty on Philo there for you.
Yeah,
with that one, but a good win for them, Billy. And let's take a look at some of the other scores that we didn't get to from last night. We failed to mention Central Catholics 49-6 win over East Liverpool. How about this from a statistical breakdown? Central last night, 2 punt return touchdowns, a pick 6. Dan Boren had a punt return touchdown of 35 yards, 32-yard touchdown reception, and a rushing touchdown. Hat trick for Dan Boren, 3 different ways he scored yesterday. Amar Conley with the 82-yard pick 6 on defense. Jack Talkington, a passing touchdown. Alex Anderson, 2 rushing touchdowns. So Trucker Lindesmith's got Central Catholic rolling right now at the right time. So congratulations to them. East Canton beats Tuskegee Central 47-14. Dylan Anderson, 3 TD runs. Brennan Betts threw for $192 and a touchdown, ran for 80 yards and another touchdown in that one. And Northwest, how about this? Northwest now 6-2. They've won 4 in a row. They beat Triway 28-7. Kyler Maraglia, all 4 touchdowns in that win for Northwest as he ran for 230 yards and those 4 scores. And Massillon led 28-0 at halftime, Billy, and it was all over after that. 42-7, they beat Canisius. Will Terrell Hartson, 101 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Slaughter threw for 3 more scores. Kyler Wiggins, Jameer Gamble, and Will Terrell Hartson with touchdown receptions in that victory for them last night. So a lot of big performances last night throughout Stark County.
And look, I mean, we mentioned a couple of the big scores, but I think that's what makes the teams that come back and don't roll over so much more special.
Right. Absolutely. Good wins last night. Week 8 in the book. St. Thomas, unfortunately, didn't play again, didn't have enough players. Hopefully some of their guys are healing. We'll see if they play in week 9 and week 10. So we'll keep you posted on that throughout the week on the Kenny and JT show. Billy, through 8 weeks and the games that you've done, Massillon, obviously, number 1 in Ken's top 10. And I think we're all in agreement they're the best team in Stark County that we cover, right? Who's number 2 in your opinion?
Wow, that is tough. I think that's a tough question. I mean, obviously with recency bias, I've done 2 straight, headed for 3 straight, possibly McKinley games on my broadcast. They've been tremendous. Yep. And their key, I mean, you and I were talking about their game this morning, Kenny, and you're asking me for the quarterback stats, the running back. I said, hey, slow down. Our player of the game was a defensive player with 2 touchdowns for McClellan. I believe it's Dante McClellan had a big game for them, 2 touchdown returns. But I mean, Lake's back, right? And that's the tough part to say is, is Lake's back and they're back to playing well? Or are they the next dog up there? Or is McKinley's 4 in a row, hoping for 5 in a row? Is that the real deal? I think it's really tough to say. I truly believe those teams are neck and neck, and we were robbed of answers, not being able to get the Lake 2 quarterback system against McKinley.
Yeah. Now remember, McKinley Division I, Lake Division II, but hey, Massillon's Division II, right? So, I mean, you take that into consideration as well. I think it's safe to say it instead of the top two, the top three teams in Stark County this year are Massillon, and then in whatever order you want to put them, Lake and McKinley. McKinley beat them head-to-head, so maybe you put them ahead of them, right? But but right now, going into Week 9, I think those are the three top teams in Stark County, regardless of division. And how about this? You're Massillon. You're 7-1. You lost to Moeller opening day. You've won 7 straight. You get a bye this week to prepare for McKinley. So probably a good chance the coaching staff's going to go watch McKinley play GlenOak, right? Mm-hmm. McKinley, big week for them because guess what, Billy? If they beat GlenOak, they get at least a share of a Federal League championship after starting the year 0-4 and 0-1 in the Federal League. So the worst they could do if they beat GlenOak is share the Federal League. And if you're Lake, you win out, you get a share of the Federal League, even though you suffered a loss. So those to me are the top 3 teams from what I've seen read and heard.
I'd agree with you. And as we kind of close things out, both on the show and the season here, we've learned, Kenny, especially last week, you know, you think you have the upper hand, you think you're the better team. That's not going to fly. Once you hit the field, it's happening. It's on. And we've seen multiple teams that probably waltzed in thinking, let's grab this win real quick and get out of here. Next thing you know, either the team they're playing is coming back or they never came to play.
Let's run the standings, Billy, on the bottom if you can. And we'll take a look at the various, standings in conferences and leagues. This is the Federal League. This is the way it's shaping up right now. McKinley's played one more game than everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of the teams. So they're 4-1. That's why we said if they beat GlenOak, they get a share of it. Lake needs to win their last 2 to get a share of the Federal League. Hoover and Green are hoping that McKinley loses, right? Lake loses, and if they can win out, they'll get it. But right now, McKinley's in the driver's seat because if you go head-to-head, you might say, they get the tiebreaker of winning, but it goes down as co-champions in the Federal League if McKinley and Lake both win their last Federal League games. Okay, so that's the way it stands in the Federal League. What do you got next as far as conferences go?
Here's the EBC, which I think you got a glimpse at last night. I mean, man, West Branch and Alliance hadn't lost since their first week, Kenny, and really, does that loss last night make you feel like either team's worse? Probably not.
No, and you know what? It was a home game for Alliance. They had a ton of penalties, turnovers, made a number of mistakes, and lost with 14 seconds left on the clock. So you can flip a coin. Those teams play 10 times. Maybe West Branch, because they seemed a little bit more disciplined, maybe they win 6 out of the 10, but Alliance would win 4. So, yeah, it's a toss-up. But when they went head-to-head with first place on the line in the EBC, West Branch now controls its own destiny.
Yeah, you read my mind on that. I mean, you were at a great game, and I think locally, West Branch now is a team we're paying attention to. In the past, Alliance and West Branch struggled. I think 5 years ago, both those teams, I don't think they were in this position or anywhere close. It's great to see those kind of programs not only being revived a little bit and playing so well, Kenny, but playing each other well, having that rivalry and kind of that success. And then you mentioned your top 10, Ken's top 10. I wonder if Ajay Sarbal is going to show up at your house later today, knocking on the door. Yes, they took 2 losses, but I mean, we knew whoever they got might feel the wrath of that Canton South loss.
Yeah, and they beat Manchester yesterday, 40-14. Carson Colucci, 4 TD passes, 1 rushing touchdown in that win. Brody Pumnio, 4 catches, $115 and 2 scores. Luke Yoder, 4 receptions, 41 yards, 2 scores. And Peter Killey, 10 rushes, 90 yards, and a touchdown. So they're up there as well. And think about it, they would probably be team number 4, Billy, for me. Because, well, you know what? Canton South won again last night, too. Pucci. So Pucci would be 4 because they beat Fairless head-to-head. So Fairless probably be at number 5, right? So that's the great thing about this. Still 2 weeks left, and we're still debating this based on what we've seen, the computer points and everything. But I think we've got a handful of teams, Billy, that could do some damage in the postseason when it comes around. I really do.
Yeah, I completely agree. And our schedule the next few weeks is such a big deal because teams are fighting to get in. It was great talking with Scott Garcia because, all the season in 1 week, their season goals just turned.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep, absolutely.
One win.
No doubt.
Their entire season goals turn. In 1 week, Dan DeGeorge and Lake, their season goals turn. They went from looking to be undefeated to, all right, back to the Federal League. We need to get back to dominating the Federal League. McKinley was a season goal of getting a win was on their mind for a long time. Next thing you know, Kenny, they're trying to build protection to keep that lead in the Federal League. So these next few weeks, these games that people think, you may see and you may be able to already try and predict what's happening, I would say don't go there. These are big games and teams have a lot on the line, and we've learned if nobody gives up, then these games end up being tremendous and they mean a lot towards the end of the season. And that's why I'm excited for our schedule coming up.
And look at this Pac-7 breakdown, right? The standings here. Yes, two teams kind of control their own destiny, but if they slip up, and CVCA lost again last night, right?
Yeah.
And 2 weeks ago, they were undefeated at the top of the standings. Now you've got Canton South 4-1. Northwest has won 4 in a row. They're 4-1. Fairless hanging on, hoping that those two teams will lose a game at 3-2. So you got to play out the rest of the schedule and see what happens. But we could have co-champs there in the Pac-7. And so this is, the time of the year that we love because you find out really that the separators, right? The last 2 weeks and going into the playoffs, you want to be playing your best football at this time. And some teams are, some aren't, but they still have time to turn it around and maybe still get a share of their conference or league championship, but then do even more damage in the postseason, where it matters the most. That's the way I look at it. And congratulations to West Branch, Drew Deshields. He's our player of the week for his performance in that huge win last night at Alliance. You look at his numbers, and he did it on a bum knee. He hurt it in week 2. He tweaked it again yesterday, came out for 2 or 3 plays, went right back in. They taped it up. He had to brace on it, and he finished the game and led them to the game-winning drive in an exciting 42-35 win over Alliance at Mount Union Karis Stadium. And it was a great game for us to do. And we wish, Drew the best of luck. Hopefully that knee holds up for him the rest of this season. And Alliance, guess what? It'll be bounce back week for Alliance. We'll see how they do this week. The Aviators bouncing back after a tough loss where they committed turnovers and a lot of penalties, and the defense couldn't shut the door at the end.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you guys kind of lucked out in what was a matchup that could have went either way and could have really shifted either way, but it kind of ended up being exactly what you guys thought it would be. That's tremendous. And the games we watched this week were great. And want to reiterate, these matchups coming up, there's going to be things such as league standings that matter. We see a couple times in these rankings, Kenny, it says, so-and-so hasn't played all their league games yet. Some teams are behind. Some teams have another game they have to get. Some teams have played too many. They're going to get a week off from league play. It's very exciting and very exciting heading over the past couple weeks. Great show by you today, and good stuff from the coaches and players and Dr. Seth that joined us. We appreciate everybody coming on. We know they're busy in the morning, and we're having a lot of fun getting to have these coaches bring on their players and talk with their players a little bit.
Yeah, some big games next week, Billy. Week 9, McKinley at GlenOak. McKinley wins. They get a share of the Federal League, regardless of what happens with anybody else. Lake at Perry. We heard Coach DeGeorge tell us it's going to be a tough one. That wing T, well, Lake needs to win the last 2 to get a share of the Federal League. Central Catholic at Jackson. Big game there, right? Central on a roll. Jackson licking their wounds after this week's loss. Alliance, they should bounce back. It's at Minerva. Sorry, but just the truth of the matter. We'll see if Malrington can string 2 wins in a row. Salem is at Malrington. Manchester at Northwest. You can't take anybody lightly, like you said, even though Northwest looks like the favorite there, right? You better not take Manchester lightly. Canton South's on the road at Orville. Maybe not as good of a team this year as they've been in recent years, but that's always a tough place to play. Triway at Fairless. They need to continue to win to keep hope there. And Sandy Valley, can they put another one in the win column? So a lot of good games next week that we'll be recapping on the Spectrum Orthopaedics Saturday morning huddle. Great stuff. We appreciate everybody joining us. We'll be back with
next week's show and all our highlights over social media. So make sure you give a follow to 1480 WHBC, and we'll see you in the huddle next week, Stark County.